Welcome back to the upper tier, folks. It is Thursday, so it's Thursday Tier Talk with myself and, of course, the Dazzler joins me as always. How are you, my friend?
I am okay, brother. Doesn't get much better than okay at the minute being a Man United fan, but I'm okay.
Well, we will be talking about it. Don't worry. We will give you a bit of a therapy session.
I fucking guessed we might be. Imagine that. We're going to talk about Man United. What a shock. Now, I'm telling you, Niall, for the good of the podcast, you better not decide. I think Burnley might pip them this weekend because I'm telling you, I'm down in tills if it happens. Don't, Niall. Don't do it.
I'm not.
Don't risk it. Don't risk it.
And actually, to be honest with you, I have a little bit of good to say tonight, actually, believe it or not. So there you go.
Somebody take note of the time and date.
Absolutely. Was I going to go now? I'm after losing my time. Yeah, absolutely. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, of course, and drop a like on the video. Share the content. We are here each and every Thursday. We're going to be previewing the Premier League. We're going to be talking about a few bits.
The bang of blue raspberry off that.
Blue raspberry. You gave us the full description there, not just blue ras, no?
Oh, no. That gives me a little tingle down below.
Right. See, I told you. We're asking for trouble, aren't we?
Don't mind that show, Hawk.
Straight away. Henry's in. How are you, Henry? Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, Henry.
Before we get into the Premier League, let's have a quick chat about Euros, stuff like that. We'll talk about that. Celtic last night getting beaten 2-0 by Feyenoord. AC Milan and Newcastle 0-0. Newcastle fans reasonably happy getting out of there with that result, and rightly so. But one Arturo Vidal has had a lot to say on this, and we'll be discussing it later. So if Corvo's going to jump in, we'll be chatting later about Arturo Vidal's feelings about Newcastle in the Champions League. Man City 3-1 against Red Star Belgrade.
The highlight of which was Ederson's little drag back and putting through your man's legs. Quality.
Awesome.
I love it. I just love it.
And to have the nads to do it as well, not a bother on him.
Did you hear him in the interview? They talked to him today, and he said, I know I have the other players around me, he said, and at that moment, it's just about staying very calm and trying to do what I have in my head. I just thought, made that sound very easy, didn't he?
Yeah, nearly hang those horse chestnuts outside the shorts, nearly, yeah.
Man.
Bayern Munich 4, Man United 3. Give us a quick thoughts on the game. I have to say, I have to retract a little bit. I think Ten Hag still has the dressing room, and I think it wasn't as poor a showing as people expected. I think you're coming out that with a little bit, dare I say, it is a loss, but a little bit more confidence maybe going into the weekend.
I don't know if confidence is the right word. It's another defeat, I think it's obviously great to get the boy Hoyland on the score sheet, and it was good that we seen some of the lads dig in and try and put their best foot forward. But there's still so many passengers. There really is. Like, I didn't see the whole game. I was in work. I got home just after half time. And I have to say, like, even though at that stage we were 3-1 down, and obviously we won from when I watched, we won the game 2-1, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But even at that, we weren't the better team. Even at that, like, Bayern were playing keep ball and we're knocking the ball about, weren't necessarily going for their throat. Could have put a couple of passes if they really had wanted to. I thought the boy Musiala was on a different planet, I must say. He's a terrific footballer, one that we'll get to watch over the next few years, hopefully. But very difficult for Ten Hag at the minute. There's a lot of guys on that team aren't playing anywhere near the levels that he would expect them to play at. And I think when you have 3 or 4 lads that drop the level like that, it's very hard to get wins. We spoke about it last season, when we played games with Ronaldo or with Donny van de Beek and stuff like that. Unless you've got all 11 players pulling in the right direction, getting wins in that league and in the Champions League and stuff like that is very, very tough.
Yeah, I think I think what you're saying now, and I said it to you last night when we were talking after the match and stuff like that, that the comparisons between us last year and you this year are quite similar in terms of the midfield drop off and stuff like that, which ultimately, when it happens, really exposes your back line and ultimately your goalkeeper. I was encouraged, I have to say, that Onana came out and gave the interview afterwards, and he accepted the role he had played in the defeat and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
it's not easy doing something like that. A lot of keepers wouldn't do that either as well. So it shows, that he's
no,
still.
there was certainly a bit of leadership and a bit of character there, And I
Yeah,
think from his second half performance, you would tell he was a guy that was hurting. He
yeah,
was a guy that was annoyed at himself. He was a guy that felt like he let himself and other lads down, and that didn't sit comfortably with him. Now, I like that. I like the fact he wasn't able to go in and just sit in the dressing room as if everything was normal, because it wasn't. And, he did cough the first goal up. And no matter what we're talking about, whether it's goalkeeping, whether it's everyday life, if someone makes a mistake, put your hands up, admit to the mistake, people will think more of you, and just get going. That's the end of it. Job done. Don't
yeah. I
hide
think.
behind,
Yeah, I think it was good to see that, because I suppose when you look back on the match, there was a massive lack of leadership on the pitch, wasn't there, really? So it was good to see after the game that Onana came out and he fronted up and stuff like that, which is good. And I think there's encouragement there as well. There's a lot of people going in hard on them. And look, I did a short today. I just like having fun with the shorts. It's not necessarily a true reflection of my ultimate feelings and stuff like that and all. But yeah, I think in his case it's a different kind of situation and stuff like that. And of course, when goalkeepers make mistakes, as we both know, it's the last line of defense. It's the most
that's it.
publicized, and it's but it's
Look at how many guys last night went to receive a ball and the touch wasn't good enough and they lost it, or they tried to play a pass and it wasn't good enough and they gave the ball away. But ultimately, because they didn't lead to a goal, we're not talking about them today. And that's
yeah.
always been the issue with goalkeeping.
Yeah, I even noticed in the midfield last night the amount of times the balls were nicked off you, that there was no shout for a man on or anything like that. You know what I mean? There was just no communication on the pitch and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, you're going into the game. We'll obviously talk about the Burnley game shortly. Arsenal 4, PSV 0. Arsenal looked really, really good last night, I have to say. Looked like they are
Very,
embracing.
very good. Super impressed with Arsenal. Although the one I would say, the one thing that took the shine off it for me was having to listen to Paul Merson say that, behind Manchester City, they're probably second favourites for this trophy. Really?
No.
Really, Paul?
Yeah.
I think that side of bricklayers who knocked you out last year in the Europa would have something to say about that.
Well,
Jesus Christ!
the beauty of that is 9 times out of 10 he gets it wrong. So
I'd
don't
have
think we've
said
gotten to
12
worry
times
about
out of
that.
10, but
Yeah.
it was
Most
an
times
annoyance,
anyway,
especially when obviously United haven't had a good night, and you come and you listen to bits and bobs and sound bites and whatever like this, and then I'm hearing Palmer's and he's like, what, Arsenal are probably the second favourites, and I'm like, I don't even think Arsenal are the second favourites in our group, Paul. What are you talking about? Like, you cabbage. He's just such a he tries to play that Liam Brady role, and to get people sensationalize things, to get people on his back and stuff, and it works because he makes himself sound like an idiot,
Yeah, he's the heel that doesn't scare you.
He sure is.
Yeah. What do you make of this? I mean, and I know, both of us for a long, long time now have been talking about Martin Odegaard. And it seems like he has to work exceptionally hard and be exceptionally brilliant to get flowers sometimes off the fan base. We've spoke about how brilliant he was when they were vilifying him and all that kind of stuff. I think he's an exceptional player.
It's very funny, actually, because I watched, obviously, Arsenal at the weekend, and I watched some of Arsenal midweek, and I just think he's a star. I really do. I think, like, in that Premier League, I don't think I can name 5 midfielders in the league better than him. So he's in my top 5 for Premier League midfielders. Now, listen, we know the boy Rodri, for me, is on another planet. Obviously, Kevin De Bruyne. there's other good footballers in that league, but like the boy Odegaard's right up there with them two boys for me. He really is. Um,
Yeah.
he's extremely combative for a guy who creates and scores so much. Like De Bruyne is a great. He has his end product is fantastic. You'll see him pick balls out, and he'll hit a sixpence 20 yards away, create, scores goals and stuff like that. But I don't necessarily think he gets about the pitch and puts his foot in the way Odegaard does. So I kind of think when you're looking at Odegaard, he's a real box to box. You see him receiving it on the turn. He's willing to go in and put his foot into a tackle. And he's a fabulous footballer. He really is.
Mm.
And we're seeing the kid that we all thought we were going to see eventually. Because obviously 15 years of age when he goes to Real Madrid and stuff like that, and a huge talent. But he's backed it up, and it's funny you should mention him. He's actually in my beat the bookie later on.
Oh, very good. Interesting.
Yeah.
Jesus is saying, bring back the Gea. Ten Hag should be begging him immediately. Don't know about that. Can't believe the hate Rashford is getting. He's one of the only putting in a shift.
I think that's a huge stretch, Morris. Huge. He's not putting in, and if you watch United games, you'll realise he's not putting in any sort of a shift. He will do everything you want him to do when he has the ball at his feet. When the ball isn't at his feet and he needs to, get back and give somebody a hand, he's no interest whatsoever. It's shocking.
He kind of reminds me, he sees himself nearly as that Ronaldo character, doesn't he? Really, where he doesn't feel that that's his role. That his role is on the front foot with the ball. And that all that other work that has to be done is not really in his world.
And it's funny because obviously I'm watching him last night and I'm thinking, surely he would have looked at some of the other good footballers in the league and said, well, if that guy does it, and if that guy does it, and if that guy does it, if I want to get to that level, I need to do it.
Yeah, look at Harry Kane. Look at Harry Kane last night.
Look at Harry Kane, and like I'm gonna go back, and I don't like doing it. I'm gonna go back to Arsenal. I'm gonna look on the opposite side to him, a guy in Bukayo Saka, who is as good as Rashford is going forward. His goals and assists are right up there with Rashford, but his pitch, the work he does on the pitch, and how much he gives a dig out on that Arsenal side, far outweighs anything Rashford does ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Morrison, can't wait to ask Bischoff about the Glazers on Monday. West Ham nil. They're 1-0 down. West Ham. We take a quick run through the Europa results for our sins. I know you had to endure it, so we'll endure it anyway. So we'll start. West Ham at the moment are 1-0 down. 53 minutes gone. Brighton are 2-1 down. 55 minutes gone. AK Athens, I don't know if you looked at the stats, are doing a proper Brighton job on Brighton. 37% possession, double the amount of shots.
I actually was, when I got home, I'm trying to get some food in before we come on here, and because I don't go home until about 20 past 8, and I just managed to watch a couple of minutes of the Brighton game, and I don't know whether you saw it. Brighton actually scored a penalty, but the referee booked the boy João Pedro for simulation. And the boy João Pedro's like, listen, he's taking me out here. So referee waits, and then the voice in his ear says, go and have a look at the monitor. So he goes have a look at the monitor. Of course, there's a clear foul, trip, gives the penalty and has to re-sim the yellow card like an absolute wally brain. So that'll tell you, not every piece of contact in the box is a penalty. However, the difference between a penalty and a yellow for me are miles apart. Yeah. If I'm unsure if it's a pen or not, I maybe wave it away. But I don't necessarily go over the top and yellow card the guy for simulation, especially when it makes me look like an absolute pony, 40 seconds later.
Yeah, you're throwing your cards in a poker game before you call them.
Oh my God, it's true. It was mental. And as he walked back over to Pedro kind of looked at him and went, I told you. You're just like...
Yeah, absolutely. Group E here. Liverpool had to come from behind this evening against Lask. It was the early kickoff. Finished 3-1 to Liverpool. Mo Salah coming on, picking up the last one. Couple of good goals, but Lask were really, really good. And their crowd was fantastic. Never stopped all night. The other game in that group finished 1-1, so Liverpool's at the top of it. Let's see what else is in here. I'm having to delve right down at this stage now. Aston Villa got beaten 3-2 by Legia Warsaw. That's a bit of a shock, I have to say. Aberdeen
I thought thought Villa would have been up for a result there, but I suppose it would depend on what kind of a side he put out, really, as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, big game at the weekend as well. Who are they playing? Chelsea, isn't it? We'll be looking at it as well. And Aberdeen got beaten 2-1 by Eintracht Frankfurt. Doesn't seem like a bad result. Didn't see the game or the stats now, but doesn't seem like a bad result. That is it. That's everything I have so far anyway. And that is where we're at with the Europa League and the Europa Conference for our sins. Right, let's get into this Premier League preview. We start off Crystal Palace Fulham.
Should be a good game. Obviously, two sides needing a victory after last weekend. Palace, Palace unlucky last weekend against Villa, put in a decent performance. It was 1-1 very, very late in the game. And then Villa were able to just kind of bolt in the last 10, 15 minutes and get two quick ones and win that game. Fulham obviously got a win last week at home, but it was against Luton, but they dragged it out a little bit. 1-0 at home doesn't flatter Fulham at all. Luton with a reasonable performance, but just they don't have the goals, they don't have the bite going forward. Luton at the minute, it's going to be a really, really tough season for them. I think we might see Palace just edge Fulham out here. I do think the who's in the starting lineups will play a big part, because I know Palace have had a couple of injuries, and I think if they can get the boy Eze and Matete and stuff like that on the bench, on the pitch, I think that gives them a much, much better opportunity. I think Palace probably have the better squad there of the two teams, and if they can just get that starting 11 out there that Roy Hodgson wants, I think Palace will just nick it 2-1.
I was actually thinking about you last weekend because your friend took control, didn't he, with Roy getting sick, and he gave the post-match interview as well.
What's the chap's name? Paddy did, yeah. Paddy McCarthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he actually, I actually really, really liked his analysis. Actually, he's a straight shooter, isn't he? It's pretty cool, refreshing to hear.
Yeah, you're not gonna hear too many untruthful statements out of Paddy.
Yeah, and he doesn't have to get too scientific either. He's fairly straight in his way. Really
to be honest with you, I would also say Hodgson's a little bit like that at times, So he's probably learning learning under a guy like that. I imagine Paddy will go on and have a decent managerial career. He seems to be, putting himself in the right places at the right times, and learning under some good managers there. I imagine he'll do well. He'll either get that Palace job eventually, or he'll drop down into the Championship and take a role, I imagine.
Yeah, Luton versus Wolves.
Yeah, so obviously Luton are precariously perched at the bottom of that table, without a point in the board. Haven't really had a performance of note. Struggling for goals, conceding at the back. I think Wolves are they're down there. They haven't picked up the volume of points they would want. But I think some of Wolves' play and some of Wolves' performances, is miles ahead of where somebody like Luton is. And I think Wolves will do this at the weekend. I know Wolves are a little bit goal shy at times, so I don't think it'll necessarily have the gloss on it that Gary O'Neill would want. But I do think there's enough there to get over the line. So I'm going to go 2-1 to Wolves.
Interesting. This is a big game for Luton as well, because this is a game where they have to try and pick up something. You know what I mean? Because
it's got to be one of those. It's got to be one of those games with an asterisk beside it, where you're home against one of the teams around you, and you've got to try and push your best foot forward and pick up points. Because if you don't pick up points in games like this, you're not staying in the league, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Man City versus Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, I think this could be interesting. Probably more interesting than most people think it's going to be. I see at times with City, they can be either unbelievable or they can be a little bit off at times, depending on the mix and the blend of players that he has in there. I think obviously Alvarez, for me, so far this season has been the standout with City. He's been unbelievable. Goals and assists. and his all-round play, to be honest with you, has been exceptional. But I think Forest will really give them a good game. I think I spoke about it in our group during the week. I love a lot of what Forest are doing, especially with their personnel. They brought in a decent keeper there, and they've got a really good front four. I spoke about the front four the other day. All guys that have been at big clubs. The boy Awaniwu, the lad that was at Liverpool. They've got Alanga, obviously ex-United. They've got Gibbs White, I think he's ex-Arsenal. And then they've got had Callum Hudson-Odoi, and he's ex-Chelsea. And I just think there's a lot of talent there. I think there's an awful lot of pace and power. And I think they could cause City a little bit of trouble on the break. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Forest in some sort of a game this weekend for a little while anyway.
Yeah, I think if you look at some of City's performances this season, that has been the case, isn't it? Where teams have kind of been in it, and then Pep just finds a way to just turn it up a notch. I think you're spot on about Julian Alvarez. He's an exceptional player, and to think about it, he's trying to operate in the shadow of, the Haaland and Rodri's and all this kind of thing. But he still sticks out there, you know what I mean? He's always good for a goal or an assist.
You know what happened was, to begin with, at the start of the season, I suppose when Mahrez left the building and stuff like that, Pep started to play him on the right-hand side, And you looked like he was shoehorning him into a position that possibly wasn't where he wanted to be. And then, of course, they get a few bodies back and they bring Doku and stuff like this. And all of a sudden, Alvarez is still starting. And then you see, actually he's letting him float in between the lines between those eights and Haaland. And he's kind of making himself almost like a number 10 with sort of a free role where he creates and stuff like that. And his work rate is fantastic. Really reminds me of, a Carlos Tevez, something like that. A real little terrier getting around the pitch. But he's been phenomenal for them. It really has. And especially when you look at it and you say, the absence of Kevin De Bruyne, they've struggled at certain times for certain teams. The boy Alvarez has done well to close that gap for them, I have to be honest with you. He really has.
Yeah, absolutely. Jack is in.
So I'm gonna go 3-1 City, by the way, but I do think it'll be a game for a long period. I just think, as you said, it just seems like they're able to pull a river card all the time, aren't they?
Yeah, Cooper seems to have that knack, doesn't he, where he can shut teams down a little bit and disrupt them a little bit to stay in it. But ultimately, when you're against the real good teams, they eventually kind of figure it out and they kick on, But I think, 3-1 wouldn't be surprised at all. Jack's in Anfield Road TV. Yes, the fellas, hope you're both well. Absolutely, Jack. I was watching Jack. Jack, hats off to Jack as well. Jack was doing watch-alongs earlier, along with Henry as well, for the Europa League and stuff like that. So fair play to him and did the match.
I just saw Henry pop something in there earlier as well, by the way. It was a great holiday, Henry, so appreciate asking, buddy. And big shout out to Jack for popping in. Jack, appreciate it, pal, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was great. Brentford versus Everton.
Everton are struggling, man. Everton are really, really struggling. I know, they're not necessarily being beaten off the pitch week on week, but it's just such a struggle. Goals are so difficult to come by. There's not 3 of their 5 games they've lost 1-0. So they're not getting hammered. But when you can't score goals, it applies a certain amount of pressure at the other end of the pitch. And as soon as a goal goes in there, everybody knows we've just conceded. We're in big trouble here because we don't score a whole lot. And I think Everton are struggling to see where the next goal is coming from, to be honest with you. I can't see past Brentford here. I think this is prime Brentford. This will be high tempo. They'll press them really, really high. They'll have the boy Flecken playing almost in the centre circle, and they'll just push and push and push. And I think they'll do a little bit of a number on Everton. I'm going to say 3-0 Brentford here.
That's a big one, isn't it? Do you know what it is? Do you know what summed them up for me last week? I was watching them against Arsenal. And you just never felt like they were going to do one. But there was a ball played out onto the wing. It was about 5 or 10 minutes to go. And it was played out to Calvert-Lewin, and I think he either miscontrolled it or the ball went out. And I seen him waving his arms around, and I'm thinking, you absolute shithouse. You haven't kicked the ball for Everton in nearly 2 years, and you're pulling a wedge out of that place. And you're the guy who's going to start throwing your arms around at the likes of a Luca Digne or an Onana or these guys who are showing up every week trying to make something happen there. And you're the guy waving your arms around. Get out of here, I said. Tell you one thing, as you talk sometimes on this show about going in on guys in changing rooms, he would have got it off me last week if that was the case. I'm telling you now.
Absolutely.
Just the
It's got to be.
attitude
It's
of
got to
it,
be
like.
frustrating for him, obviously. Not being able to play the number of games he would like to play, especially in this stage of his career. But like, surely every time you get on the pitch, then it's down to you to prove, that you deserve a spot, and Everton waiting on you time on time again is worth their while. Because to be honest with you, like at this stage, I don't know whether to look for an exit clause with Calvert-Lewin. He's a good footballer, he really is. But if you can't get on the pitch, you're no use to anybody, and Everton have stood by him over the last couple of years when he didn't get on the pitch. It's time for him to dig his heels in and show the Everton fans what they've missed.
Yeah, Aces in Liverpool will destroy West Ham on Sunday. Joke that this game isn't on Sky Sports showing bloody Sheffield United versus Newcastle United. You do have to share it out. Two things I would pick up on there is just to let you know, Aces, there's a whole world of football out there beyond Sky Sports. You just have to use Google and be intelligent enough to find it. The other thing I would say as well, and we'll get on to it when we get to the match, Liverpool will not destroy West Ham on Sunday. Be careful about that. Baz is in. How are you, Barty? Evening, lads. What's the crack? And Corvo was in. Big up, lads. He was on the show earlier. We were talking about I did a review of the docuseries Wrestlers, and we got into a bit of a conversation about the cuts that went down today and all and stuff like that. So we'll be talking about that on another show.
Still making them, aren't they?
Yeah, it's going on as we speak, I'd say. So it won't be finished yet. I think bloody Thursday could go into a bloody Friday as well by the looks of things.
There was I had seen 8, I think. I think the last time I saw 8 or 9.
Yeah, there's a good few after happening now, and I believe
did you see Tegan Knox?
I hadn't seen Tegan Knox.
Tegan Knox apparently has gotten the chop as well, yeah.
I presume that's hence the reason the Becky situation when that came out yesterday or the day
before.
Well,
I think they said, obviously Natalia replaced her, didn't she, on the India show? So that's why they kind of gave her the good grace of that for doing her a solid, as they would say. But it looks like Tegan's been bumped. Maybe Becky knew it was coming and tried to give her one last opportunity to show something. But I believe Tegan Knox has been bumped.
Yeah, we'll see anyway. Carver's in. Sheffield United for us, easy peasy. I don't know. I have a view on that. I'll come to that later anyway. But stick with us, Carver. We're going to have a chat about Newcastle as well. You're going to enjoy it. You might not be a big fan of Arturo Vidal at the end of this show, that's for sure. Burnley versus Man United.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. I'm going to be honest. Usually when you've got one of the promoted teams, you kind of think, right, here's an opportunity for us to get a couple of points on the board. But again, I've seen Burnley a couple of times this season, and while they haven't picked up the points, maybe some of the performance has been quite good under Vincent Kompany to play a really good brand of football. We know Turf Moor is not the place anybody wants to go, especially when you're in the kind of vein of form that we're in. Very, very big game for us. This is a huge, huge game for us. I think, this is our 6th Premier League game with 3 defeats and two wins. If it goes 4-2, you've really got to feel like you're pissing up the hill, where I think if you can get it back to 3-3, you can kind of start to build from there and stuff like that. We also obviously had a poor start to the season last year as well and stuff like that. We were able to get it back, but I think for that to happen again, it's got to start on Saturday. We can't fall much further behind and expect to be involved in that Champions League discussion later on in the season. So I think this is going to be tough. I don't imagine we're going to get out with a clean sheet because generally we don't keep too many clean sheets. And I think if we're going to go there and we're going to need to score 2 or 3, because again, I don't feel like we're as secure as we need to be at the back right now. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say 3-2 Man United. And I think that's I think it's going to be a really, really tough day at the office, and I'm absolutely leading here with my heart, not my head, but that's where I am on it, you know?
Yeah. Playing to choose the plum, playing devil's advocate here. What does Ten Hag take out of last night? I mean, obviously, for me, looking at it from the outside, Regulon is obviously a very plus from last night. I thought he was very
Yeah.
good in
Yeah.
a real mixed bag of non-performance and stuff like that. I thought he stood out, and I think he's I questioned that when Man United did it and stuff like that. That could be something that could work out really good for you this season.
Yeah, like
He's
I
very,
actually
very
think
progressive, isn't he? He's very progressive.
he's extremely progressive, and this has been the issue with him, especially at Spurs. You know, Spurs couldn't necessarily keep the volume of clean sheets to have somebody like a Reguilon in there because he was so progressive and he wants to play the game so high up the pitch. The attacking threat from him is huge, but again, you know my theory on this. If you're a right or a left back, your number one job is to make sure you know that you don't concede too many goals in a game. And I think at times he's going to have to find the balance a little bit better. I think Ten Hag, looking at him last night, would have said, "Listen, you did so many good things. However, we can't keep going in and finding that gone out for a lunch tag, hanging in the left back position when you're up on the edge of the other box. You know, especially not with our midfield and how we're bypassed so quickly." Yeah, I think he could be a plus for us. I do. I think the boy Hoyland could be a plus. You know, I still firmly believe Mount is going to be a big plus for us. I know there's a lot of people that don't, but I do, and I'm willing to back my theory on that. And I think Amrabat's going to be huge when we can get him on the pitch. But for now, the issue for United is we don't have the bodies to put into the positions that Ten Hag wants. And it always seems like you're moving one to incorporate another, and you're moving and square pegs and round holes and stuff like that. And I think that's the issue he has at the minute. I think the positives for him will be Varane and Mount are probably fit for the weekend, from what I hear. That's a huge plus. You know, bring some energy, bring some defensive solidity. I wouldn't be surprised, and I spoke about this. I wouldn't be surprised when you've a Dalot and you've a Reguilon if we went and played three at the back. And obviously then with the ball you're a 3-5-2, and without the ball you're a 5-3-2. You know, because you saw how progressive Reguilon was, and Dalot can be like that on the other side. And then, you know, maybe go Rashford and Hoyland up front and pack the midfield with three, get two lads in and around Casemiro with some legs, and try and just make that back 4 or 5 a little more solid, you know, in the short term while we're getting people back and stuff like that and covering positions, you know.
Yeah, it's mad, and I said you could clip this up if you wanted, but I listened to Ten Hag's interview after the game last night, and I'm a Liverpool fan. I actually genuinely felt sorry for him. I thought he was going to start crying. Actually, he was very taken aback. I mean, the amount of absolute crap he's having to juggle at the moment is it's a far cry from what he was at Ajax and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, this is a different world for him altogether. He's dealing with Sancho, he's dealing with Anthony, he's dealing with ownership, he's dealing with takeovers, he's dealing with Greenwood, he's dealing with the heat off this agency team that came out. You know what I mean?
Maguire,
so
De Gea,
much.
I think the two things I would say about him is, number one, I agree with what he said the other day. I took note of it and I said, you know what, I have to back him. He hasn't been able to choose the starting 11 he wants once so far. He hasn't been able to pick what he wants to play as a starting 11. And the other thing I will say is, with the amount of external issues that are going on off the pitch at United, what's happening on the pitch is becoming secondary. And that's a problem. So the noise in the background needs to go away in order for the guys in the pitch and the manager to get down to the job that they have, which is putting us in a position to challenge for trophies, Champions League positions, you know, and get further through this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. North London derby, Arsenal versus Tottenham.
Been a while since I've been licking my lips at a North London derby, I can tell you. Really going to enjoy this. Obviously, unfortunately, I'm enjoying watching Arsenal play these days. Very good. There's so many players on the team I like, especially offensively. Obviously Saka, huge fan. Thought Jesus has done well. Obviously got the goal against us. I think the goal he took last night as well was a screamer. I don't know if you've seen it. It's as well struck a goal as you've seen in a long time. Martinelli, Saka, Trossard, lots of good stuff. Rice, I think, very good. Absolutely loved, and I can see cheap production in the comments there, and it'll be interesting to know, did he love seeing the boy David Raya in goal? Because I did. And I think straight away he looked like an upgrade on Ramsdale, who, don't forget, is a guy we backed heavily last season. We went to bat for him, but there's something extremely calming about the boy Raya. Like, he's playing. Oh, look at this. See, look.
Slide. We have a slide for everything tonight. Don't worry.
I didn't know. You've got to tell me these things.
I can't tell you. I like to surprise you on a Thursday night,
Yeah, I think the boy Raya was. I just loved watching him. I thought, if I'm one of the Arsenal back four, and someone says to me in a one-word answer, who do you want behind you, Raya or Ramsey? It's Raya all day long and twice on a Sunday.
Are we going on the beer on Monday? I'm not sure whether I'm going on the beer or not, but I'll be there in full fettle, all right. Because I'll be probably driving.
Possibly
home.
Morris.
Yeah. Darren will let me know. He might be rocking up to have a few, all right.
I usually go on the beer for those ones, so we shall see.
But Morris, when he goes on the beer now, he's like, this is 4 o'clock on the floor with takeaways all around you and everything. This is proper going out. Corvo's in, NXT cuts happening next, lads. Yeah, it's all incoming at the moment. What's the crack, Morris? Yeah, Daz was in. He says he has a link for you, Darren, actually, about wrestling figures. He's going to send it on to me, which is quite intriguing. Nice. He was on the show earlier, all right, yeah. So
love to hear that.
Do you think Luton could pick up 20 or 25 points by the end of the season when it comes around? Absolutely not. I think they're actually going to break Derby's record.
Yeah, I think they'll have less than 20, Keith. I really do. I think the only thing that stops them, stops them from getting less than 20 is, and I don't like saying this, I think the boy Rob Edwards needs to go. And I think they would need to bring in something big. Now when I mean something big, it could be a Big Sam. It could be a fucking Neil Warnock. It could be something like that they just go, we need a bit of experience here. And we know guys like that can get results from anywhere. They're getting beaten 4-0 by Wolves, and all of a sudden they're beating Arsenal 1-0 on the basis of Big Sam or Warnock or something like that. But I think at the minute, with the way it's going and with Edwards and stuff like that, I couldn't see them getting 20, if I'm honest.
Well, based on Big Sam's fee for Leeds for 4 games or whatever it was, I don't see him going to Luton anytime soon. That's for sure.
No, and it's a supporters-run club, so I think with Luton, if they were going to make a change, it would be somebody they would imagine could help them get back out of the Championship. That's the way they'd look at it, rather than somebody in a short-term role who could just keep them in the league. That's not how it's going to be done at Luton, but that's the only way I would see them getting any more than 20 points.
Yeah, Aisha's Amrabat debut against Burnley. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's another week or two away, isn't he? According to the reports.
He has started training outside of the main group pre-Champions League game. So he may be back in today and possibly tomorrow. I'd say he could be on the bench.
Bench maybe,
could be.
Aisha's Rangers 1-0 up against Real Betis. That's good for them. He flagged that one. West Ham 2-1 up. Nice little turnaround there. That's West Ham 2-1 up, absolutely. News on Gravenberch's cramp. That's good news, Daz. Not surprised at all. And in fairness, he was pretty reasonable. I know he turned away for the goal that they got and stuff like that, but I think he was decent on the day. He wasn't too bad for his first game for us and stuff like that. Corvo, no one loves a derby more than Ange Postecoglou. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm telling you.
And we will get to it. Did you give me a score yet for Arsenal Tottenham? No.
I didn't. Now, I think there's gonna be a serious amount of goals in this game, by the way. I really think there's gonna be goals in this game. I think I'm gonna go 2-2 draw here. I'm gonna go 2-2 draw. Because I think obviously after the Arsenal playing, Champions League game during the week, it makes life a little bit more difficult. Spurs will have the whole week off. They'll be ready to go, and I think they'll get something out of it, Spurs, because I think the work rate under Ange is phenomenal, and it's way more than they've had under Spurs managers in the last 3, 4, 5 years.
Well, what I'm going to say right now is I'm going to let people know that I have not shared my beat the bookie with Darren at this stage, but just to let you know. You'll come back to that. You'll come back to that call when we get to beat the bookie. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Brighton versus Bournemouth, the Battle of the Bees.
Yeah, obviously tough night at the office tonight for Brighton, isn't it? I think 2-2 is what I'm hearing now. Yeah, it's 2-2 in the Brighton game, and actually in the Ajax and Marseille game in that group, it's 3-3. So 2 draws at the minute. I actually have Marseille. I have Marseille and Brighton. So a goal for either side there could help me. I had West Ham as well, and they are now up, which is terrific. Who did I have with them? I actually backed Brighton when they were losing, would you believe? Because when I seen them down, I said to myself, I need to get involved there. I've West Ham, I've Brighton, Marseille, I've Atalanta, and I've got Club Bruges.
Well, the bad news for you is AEK Athens have just scored.
Oh, no. Oh, I see the goal. Well, I see it on the... I think Atalanta are 2-0 up. Atalanta are 2-0 up, and Club Bruges are 1-0 up. So at the minute,
so Brighton
is 3 up. I've 1 level in Brighton. Yeah, sure.
So
listen,
Brighton,
why would that shock me on? I like hitting the crossbar with these things, don't you?
Absolutely.
As I did last weekend with my beat the bookie.
You did, absolutely. Brighton versus Bournemouth.
I was a bit surprised not to see Evan Ferguson on the pitch or on the bench tonight. I'm unsure why I didn't see him. But I think Brighton
for the weekend.
Possibly, because I know he's coming back from injury and stuff like that. So with that in mind, I'll go Brighton, especially if they lose tonight, because I think De Zerbi won't like that. He'll put a better side out with the weekend, and he'll get the result at home against Bournemouth, and it'll be 2-1, 3-1 Brighton.
Coming up, here's one of the fixtures of the weekend: Chelsea versus Aston Villa at the Bridge. Give me your thoughts on this one. This is obviously a little bit of pressure on Villa after a poor result tonight, and a lot of pressure on Poch at the moment.
Yeah, a little bit of pressure, obviously, with the defeat. But I suppose again, I haven't seen the Villa team, and it's interesting to see who he put out, because he may have one eye on Sunday. He may have one eye on Chelsea and on what they can get from the Bridge. And I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be shocked if Aston Villa got something from the Bridge. I think Villa are a really, really good team. I think under Emre, they're gonna go close to a record finish in the league this year. I think they'll be certainly up at that 5th and 6th spot by the time we get to the end of it, because I still think they're finding their feet. I really liked what I saw last week from the boy Zaniolo. I thought he was very, very good, and I thought obviously Diaby, again playing really, really well, and Watkins hasn't found his goal scoring touch yet. I think that's the one thing Villa are missing ever so slightly, is the Ollie Watkins goals. I think when we get the Ollie Watkins goals back, I think Villa will storm through this. I really think they'll storm through it. So I'm going to go Aston Villa 2-1.
Does Ollie Watkins get his goal?
I think he does, and I've just managed to get a look at the team from tonight. So he brought on Douglas Luiz, Ollie Watkins, Moussa Diaby, Matty Cash, and Jacob Ramsey, which tells me, the 5 that started ahead of them won't be playing the weekend. So and he had Pau Torres, Alex Moreno, also on the bench. So yeah, I'm going Villa. I'm going Villa 2-1.
Sounds like he was prepping for a Chelsea, doesn't it? Sounds like he was
It
prepping
really
for the
does.
Chelsea.
It really does. And I think if he goes out, and obviously it's a poor defeat tonight away from home, but if he goes out on Sunday and says to the lads, listen, this is why we did it. Let's go and prove the point that we can come to places like this and get the win. I think all will be forgotten, and they still got the home leg and stuff like that. They'll still probably get through that group for me, you know.
Yeah, plenty of time to make up in the Europa League after the first game.
Absolutely,
plenty of time. Keith Peters back. He had a nice little holiday in Barcelona, but he's back. Villa to roar to victory.
I don't know about roaring, but Jesus, I don't know about roaring, but I certainly think they're in with a spin, you know.
Yeah, we'll come back to Keith's one there in a minute. Liverpool versus West Ham.
This always seems to be a tough day at the office for Liverpool. You guys don't like West Ham. You don't like how physical they are, and you don't like how they play on the counter, you know. And I think at the minute though, Liverpool are playing well enough to, you know, to get through this unscathed. Although I don't necessarily think it'll be an easy day at the office. I think, you know, when you've got Kudos and Antonio and Bowen and guys like that, that can cause you big trouble in that back line. Lucas Paqueta. I think West Ham will get in the score sheet. And I think, you know, the problem with Liverpool at the minute is they're having to score 2 and 3 goals to win games because they can't keep clean sheets. And you can't do that for a prolonged period of time. Now, I do think they'll get over the line the weekend, but I think it'll be a tough day at the office.
I think any time you take points off West Ham, you know you've been in a battle, don't you? It's always, for every team, it's a very tough fixture, you know. But I think just being at Anfield, I think it'll probably just edge it for us.
That's exactly what sways. I go 3-1 Liverpool. I think you'll get the win, but I think again it'll be, you know, a late goal, and then when West Ham go and push to try and get the equaliser, I think you'll pick them off a third time. That kind of a scenario, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sheffield United versus Newcastle.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see Newcastle's first game after the Champions League, because we know we talk about that Europa League hangover. And Newcastle would have been out on their feet after the game in Milan the other night. You know, great result for them and stuff like that. I hope Corvo enjoyed it, our pal. But I think it's difficult to come back then. And, you know, sometimes when you've had a result like that away from home in the Champions League against a big team, the game you don't want is against Sheffield United at Bramall Lane. We know the pitch is shite. We know Heckenbottom will make it really difficult for Newcastle. And Sheffield United will be well up for it. They were lucky not to get something from Spurs last weekend. I think there could be not an upset on the cards, but I think Newcastle could drop points here. I'm going to go a draw with this one.
My God. Between the Ollie Watkins, you're going to be shocked that we beat the bookie, I'm telling you now. And I promise to our viewers and the people in the chat, we have not shared our bets today or spoke about them at any stage today.
Just for the people at home, I think everybody knows at this stage my Paddy Power doesn't work. My wife sent me the bets that I'd done on her phone at 8:56. So I literally only had them done before I came live.
Corvo reckons a 3-1 win. You know what I've noticed about Sheffield United as well? They've actually been doing all right without picking up anything. They've been in the battle and in the matches, haven't they?
Wolves are the same. Burnley are the same. There's a couple of teams, Bournemouth as well. Couple of teams putting in performances and just not getting over the line. It's tough. It's tough in the league, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, quick one for you. Keith is in. Wants to know who you think is the signing of the season so far. I know we're only 5 games in. Who do you think is the signing of the season so far?
The signing of the season so far, I probably not a million miles away from either of the two boys there that he's mentioned. I think Szoboszlai has been very good. There's no real standouts, obviously. I think like Spurs, I suppose Maddison you could probably throw into the mix there. I think Maddison's been quite good. I think maybe with some of the teams, it's been players that they had that stood up rather than, new signings. Like, again,
Declan
if you look at
Rice.
Arsenal, Declan Rice
Maybe.
has been good, but I don't have my head of Odegaard.
Mm.
The issue is Odegaard's already an Arsenal player, so he's not
In terms
necessarily
of
a
a
new
signing.
signing.
Yeah, in terms of a signing, yeah.
Yeah, Rice has been fine. Yeah, I know it's none of the lads at United anyway, put it that way. Yeah, I think that's probably. I think Szoboszlai for me and Diaby are probably the highlights.
I tell you, if you come back to me in about another 5 games, I'm probably going to tell you Jeremy Doku.
Possibly. I know I heard the interview after the game last weekend, and Pep had said, in his first game, he had a quiet game. And in his second game, he had a better game. And I just thought, he sure did, didn't he? We saw he's going to be the Union highlight reel, Jeremy Doku, isn't he?
Yeah, Carvo's in. I think Lavia has been the signing of the summer for Chelsea. A guy the other night sent me Lavia's heat map. You know the heat map? And it's just a red bar across the dugout.
Sitting the bench.
Yeah, it's horrific. Darren, we're going to get upset here. Dana Brooke just released.
Ooh.
Can we take a moment, myself and yourself, for Dana Brooke?
We might get her on an Inside the Ropes, though. You never know. Only fans edition.
Tied up at ropes, maybe.
Oh, God.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Chelsea, Corvo, you're going to enjoy this. What did you make of this the other day? Thiago Silva's tweet. We know himself and Todd Bowley are not on Christmas card lists. That's for sure. No doubt about that. At Champions League and teary emoji. That was Tuesday night.
It's the best competition in the world. We know that. So why wouldn't you, as Thiago Silva, feel like you are missing out by not being in it? Of course you are. And I get people,
but I think with Chelsea's woes at the moment, is that really because he's your experience. He's supposed to be your leader in there. Isn't he?
Thiago, and here's my problem, right? Thiago Silva didn't put that up there to offend or annoy anybody, but people got offended and annoyed, and it was down to them rather than him. I've no problem with that, really. I don't. It's the premier. Yeah. It's the premier competition in world football.
Yeah.
He's played in it for how many years with AC Milan and PSG, and all of a sudden he's gone to the bridge, and now he's not even making a Thursday night appearance. And he's like, lads, give us a break here.
Are you coming from this? You reckon this was a personal tweet from him? Because obviously we know his history and his record and all as a footballer.
Absolutely.
You don't reckon this? You don't reckon this was a kicker? No.
Not at all. This is. I'm sad not to be playing in the best. Well, I'll tell you what. If I was at Chelsea and I wasn't playing in it, I'd be upset that I was missing out on the best competition in world football.
So here's some of the reaction that we got. One fan wrote delete. Another said, was there a need to tweet this? A third supporter wrote, why you got to do this, man? While another said, we have a relegation battle to worry about.
Yeah, but let's be honest. We know what Chelsea fans are like. Like, most Chelsea fans are, plastic and fantastic. They're heroes to zeros in the space of a bag of Haribo, so I wouldn't shed too much light on that.
He's clearly not a Chelsea. He's clearly not a fan of Chelsea in any way. Anyway, Thiago, cry more, lad. Yeah, absolutely. Morris, that's a sad tweet for a pensioner. Dazzler, is Mount back this week? Supposed to be.
Supposed to be, yeah. Supposed to be, hopefully.
Now, whether it will mount to anything is we have to wait and see. Corvo in. Chelsea are now allergic to Tuesday and Wednesday nights. Yeah, absolutely. They could be after next week as well, because I wouldn't find some. They've Brighton, haven't they, in the Carabao Cup? That's not going to be an easy one. Palace to knock United out of the Carabao Cup on Tuesday. Poor old Lacers, he gets the bit between his teeth when it comes to United, doesn't he?
Don't mind him.
So listen,
he doesn't follow a club, apparently. Get up out of that, will you? He follows some shy-hawk team, but he just doesn't have the watermelons to tell us who he follows. That's all it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Still hiding behind that fake name and profile, aren't you, Acers?
I said I'd give you a bit of a therapy session. So we have to talk about this man.
God.
Did an interview the other day with The Athletic with Andy Mitten. He had some interesting stuff that he came out with and some not so interesting stuff that he came out with. Did you get down through it? Did you read it or listen to it? Or
none of it.
No, none of it.
None of it.
Right, we go through some of it.
And sorry, what I should make known here is it's not necessarily that I have an issue with Solskjaer. I don't listen to Andy Mitten. I'm not a fan of Andy Mittens. I'm not a fan of the United Stand. I'm not a fan of Mark Goldbridge. I don't like to be told what my opinion is. And there's too many football fans who want to be told what their opinion is. And they have to listen to the narrative. I'm going to form my own opinion based on what I see and what I hear. And if I can't form my own opinion, maybe I'll sit on the fence and end up with splinters until I can. But I'm not just going to wait and be fed something with a little bow on it by Goldbridge or Mitten or any of them little cretins. There you go.
Very good. You need to subscribe to the Flying Pig then. You'll enjoy him. He's good.
Right.
He's fun. I sent you a link today in the group to his reaction to the match last night. His reactions during the goals.
This is the guy. Right.
He's Darren. You'll love it. He's hilarious. The stuff he comes out with is quality. Right. So we'll run down through it quick because we've other stuff to talk about as well, and we've got to give out our bets and stuff like that. Said he was very disappointed when one or more player turned down the chance to be captain because they did not want the added responsibility, which is fair enough. I mean, that's understandable.
It's like you'd have to be disappointed at that, wouldn't you?
I would be. But then again, I've often seen it, and I'm sure you've seen it as well, that there's guys out there that potentially you would know are very, very good footballers, but they wouldn't make very good captains.
100%.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised either.
No.
He says when things didn't go right, you could see certain egos came out. That happens. Everywhere.
And the next name after that is
Cristiano Ronaldo, the man who's going to be a crown jewel.
There you go.
That you were shocked to hear.
You could see certain egos came out. Cristiano Ronaldo, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he said Cristiano Ronaldo, Jadon Sancho, and Rafael Varane. Solskjaer said United had gone strong by signing these players. At the time they had, there's no doubt about that. And he felt that those signings would potentially kick you on up into that next level. But unfortunately, it didn't happen now. The problem with Varane is Varane would certainly kick you up into that level, but he just can't stay fit. If he could stay fit,
absolutely,
it would be massive.
And here's the thing. You've got to look at then, why do Madrid allow him out the door? Does that not send alarm bells to somebody? Because if I'm at Man United and Real Madrid are holding a flag up and saying, listen, we're willing to do a deal here for our French international centre-back, surely to God, me as United must say, why are they willing to sell him? And if you look back on the last kind of 18 months at Madrid, you can see a pattern appear with injuries, right? And he just couldn't play 5, 6, 7 games in a row. He wasn't robust enough for that. Now, if you take into account then that the Premier League is a faster paced, more physical league than Spain, things were never going to go well for Rafael Varane at Manchester United.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, he was talking about taking the next, up the next level and stuff, but unfortunately it just didn't work out. He said some players felt they should have played more and weren't constructive to the environment. That's a huge sin for me. So that clearly, that's come out now. Like, look at Jadon Sancho. I mean, it's very clear, like, and stuff like that, Also spoke about wanting to sign Haaland and Rice. He said that the club had an opportunity to sign these guys for very little money. I think he was talking about Haaland was available at the time for about 6 or 7 million, and United passed up on it. Now,
it was when he was leaving Molde, and before he went to Salzburg. No, Salzburg.
Oh, Salzburg, was it before that again? Okay.
It was Salzburg, then Dortmund, then City.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is the same route as the boy Benjamin Sesko was gone. He's gone from Salzburg to Dortmund, and he will be your next big thing, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. He was asked then about going back into management, and he said yes, he had offers, most recently 2 from Saudi Arabia. And And he has to reflect on his time as Man United manager, and he says, yeah, there was something missing, a trophy, obviously. He says, no, but it's difficult, especially for managers following on from the best managers ever. So he said it was very difficult to follow on from Alex Ferguson and stuff like that, which is, obviously, I mean, top managers have gone in there and found it very difficult to follow on from Alex and stuff like that. He was talking about players here, and he was talking about, no, not really. He says some weren't as good as their own perception of themselves. So he was talking about players thinking they were better than they actually were and stuff like that in terms of being picked and stuff like that. And then he spoke about Bruno Fernandes, came straight in and lifted the team. Harry Maguire, he talked about him as well when he came in as well, was a lift and stuff like that as well. He says it's a disgrace that he's getting so much abuse. And that kind of thing. And that was kind of the main gist of it. The other thing he spoke about as well is he spoke about at the time for transfers as well, there was a cap. You could only bring in 3 kind of decent transfers if you want and stuff like that. And once you did 3, that was it. Which is kind of weird for a club like United, you know what I mean? That just doesn't, to me, add up at all. Right, let's go back down through this, take some comments first. Where was I? Corvo's in. Ole, the Frank Spencer of managers. Keith is in. Visitor's love child. Quincy Elliott just got released. Okay. At least Maguire has the balls to take the armband. Yeah, and that's the thing that came out of it when I read the interview. That regardless of how you feel about Harry Maguire, he had the balls to step up and take the armband. Whether it worked out or not, of course, we know. But that's not the point. You don't know that at the time. Maximum Male models just released. They are absolutely emptying it out. Morris, who do Arsenal play next in the Champions League? Lens. That should be okay. And then a double header with Sevilla that will determine who tops the group potentially. Yeah, absolutely. Right, something else I wanted to get in here. Mark isn't with us. He does the Monday show with me. But I don't know if you read up about this. Did you see this stuff going on in Cyprus at the moment with officials?
I didn't.
What's happened was they've suspended football in Cyprus because officials are being targeted. And a mother of an official the other day, her car was car bombed. There was an arson attack on it and stuff like that. Now they've suspended the games. Now I wasn't aware. This has been going on for nearly a decade. Apparently, this violence against officials. I've never heard of it until the last week or so.
I've never heard of it until you've just told me.
Until I said it, yeah. But apparently, the latest incident in the campaign of terror that has run for nearly a decade, that's what came out. There was an arson car bomb attack on an official's mother. And they've been attacking houses and all sorts of reports in Cyprus said a vehicle belonging to the mother of referee Menelaos Antoniou, I think is how you pronounce it, had burst into flames early on Monday morning, with police confirming they were investigating the incident. But they've actually suspended football at the moment. Top flight matches until further notice, until this gets ironed out. So I don't know what's going on there, but apparently there's an issue there since a decade. I need to get into it a bit more, but what you thinking?
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. If I was reading it and I was reading it from, other countries, I might say, it's possibly believable, but I mean, Cyprus isn't somewhere I would expect this from. They're relatively civilized over there. Well, I say relatively civilized, but obviously reading that paragraph, they're not that civilized, are they?
Yeah, no, obviously not. Like, it's just, I'm just wondering, is there more to it than this? Has there been a background? I don't know. Has there been corruption going on? Has there been something that has triggered this? You know what I mean? If it's going on a decade,
it's scandalous to think of if this is just a guy going out on a Saturday afternoon and making a mistake, and then they're being targeted by these hooligans and this campaign of terror, just based on a poor performance, shall we say? Like, that's mental.
That's why I'm thinking, is there more to it? And if it's been going on for a decade, is there more to it? But I just don't know. I haven't investigated enough.
If there was instances of match fixing or stuff like that, and referees being paid off with bungs and stuff, that's completely different. And in that case, you'd nearly make an allowance for it, but not for. Oh.
Shanky just released.
Coming to a curry house near you.
Yeah, I've a bit of catching up with the football. Missed a few games. Absolutely to catch up on it. Now, we want to talk about this. I told you I'd preempt it. These two boys. I think we can all establish that I think we both believe, and I presume the chap believes as well, that David Raya is the better goalkeeper, yeah?
First thing I will say is I am an Aaron Ramsdale fan. I thought last season he was one of Arsenal's best players. I thought he was phenomenal. And I thought he was able to elevate Arsenal into that position, that second position in the league, and he was phenomenal for them. But I think when I look at Raya and I look at his performances, I just think there's a calmness. And I just think he brings a calmness to that 6-yard box, that 18-yard box. I think he's better under a cross. I think his distribution is slightly better. And I think there's less of the Aaron Ramsdale moments from him, if that makes sense. We've seen him last year coming out and cleaving guys, or, coming out and using the hands instead of the feet and vice versa. I just think Raya is just super composed. I don't think he's phased. I think he's a good shot stopper. I think he controls the box very well. And I think he's excellent with his feet. And I think he's Arsenal's number one in all but training top.
Well, you explained by the slides there he was asked about, and he asked about Mikel Arteta's decision to promote him to the starting 11, and he said, that's his choice, it's not my choice. If Aaron comes back in, he needs to fight for the team and to win games. So obviously there's a battle going on here. I think it's the first time that two top goalies are on the same team. That's just part of football now. I presume you're thinking Raya starts the North London derby, do you? Or do you reckon Raya is now number one and something's going to have to happen there for Ramsdale to go back in? Or what way do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Raya starts on Sunday because it's the London derby. I think Ramsdale probably plays in the Carabao during the week, and then the following weekend we go back to Raya. So I think we go Raya, Ramsdale, Raya next 3 games. But if we're talking, Champions League, unless it's a dead rubber in the group, or if you're talking Premier League, it's David Raya. If it's a dead rubber, or if it's an EFL, a Carabao Cup game, or an FA Cup game, it's going to be Aaron Ramsdale, and he's the second choice goalkeeper at Arsenal for me at this moment.
I think this was taken out of context when Arteta spoke about it, and we spoke about it as well on WhatsApp, didn't we? About how he was talking about like he could potentially be subbing keepers for potential reasons and stuff like that. I don't think he's going to be subbing a keeper unless there was an injury or something like that. And I think the way Arteta spoke about it, I think he was trying to dampen it down. But I think, as you said, I mean, you called this at the start of the season when you said you don't just sign another 35, 40 million pound keeper for no reason at all.
No.
And Raya's not coming in to sit in the bench because that was his problem at Brentford when he fell out with them and stuff like that. And also that was never going to happen. So I think you called this right from the get-go. How do you see this playing out? Are you looking at Ramsdale? Will Ramsdale potentially
I think he'll probably I think he'll probably stay as past January. I think Arteta can talk him around and give him enough games between the Carabao Cup, if they get a run in that, between the FA Cup, maybe a dead rubber or two in the Champions League, and stuff like that. So I think he'll play enough games to keep me interested until January and get through there. But I think after that, it's going to be difficult. I think after that, it's going to be what can I...
Stop, Morris. Stop.
I think
Stop
after
now.
that,
Stop.
it's just, what price can they get from? And I mean, here's the thing. If you're looking at a David Raya, we know it's a loan deal with an option to buy. If the option for Raya is 25 million, you could end up in a situation here where you get Raya in for 25, you get a backup for 10 to 15, yeah? You spend 40 million, but you could possibly get 40 million for the boy Ramsdale with him being English, and all of a sudden end up with 2 goalkeepers with a better situation because obviously, your second choice keeper's coming in to sit on the bench and the boy Ray is then your number one. I think it's very plausible.
That's not happening, Acers. He's immortal. Can't release someone who's immortal.
No, you're wholeheartedly correct.
Right, let's talk about this man here who has had plenty to say on the back of AC Milan versus Newcastle. Arturo Vidal, he says, listen to this. I saw the worst game in the history of the Champions League, Milan and Newcastle. How they played that match in the Champions League, crazy, he said. But those fools from Milan with Newcastle made me sick. They are lucky because they only know how to run. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. I don't understand Newcastle. They come fourth in the league, but they don't do anything. Disgusting. They have to risk their lives. If it's their first game, show a little more. They left me as angry as hell. This is the Champions League. Thoughts? We know this guy is quite hot-headed, to say the least.
Yeah, like, listen, I don't think anybody in Newcastle looks at these comments and gives a fiddler's a stick, you know what I mean? Like, they've gone away to Milan. They've picked up a draw. I wholeheartedly believe, by the way, they'll batter Milan when it gets to St. James's Park, because they will overrun them and they will play them off the park with their speed and with how they carve sides open from the wings, you know, with Harvey Barnes, the boy Anthony Gordon, Alexander Isak. You know, I think when it goes back to St. James's Park, I think Vidal will have an awful lot of humble pie to eat. Because I think, you know, when you go somewhere like the San Siro and you're going to play an Italian team, if you can go out and get a draw, add a point to the board, that could be a point that gets you the next stage of the group, you know. And I think Eddie Howe did the right thing, if I'm honest. Yeah, absolutely, Morris. I agree with you.
See our moderator there in the chat. Stop talking about wrestling. The topic is football. It's important to talk about it a little bit. People are getting released and losing their jobs.
You know, we had, you know, in the WhatsApp group today, in the parents' WhatsApp group on the football team, we had a mother chime in to ask, excuse me, would you mind keeping it football related, please?
Oh. Where had it gone to?
It hadn't gone that far, put it that way. Like, there was way more opportunities to shut us down than that. I wasn't involved in said situation. However,
for a change, you
know what it was? There's a clash at the weekend, and a lot of the kids that play soccer also play GAA. And the coach is trying to come to some sort of an agreement with the GAA coach that if we take the early slot, be it 9 or 9:30 on a Saturday, could the GAA take the afternoon slot, which would mean the players could play in both games and we would all benefit. Yeah?
Yeah.
And the mother chimed in and said, "Hi all, apology if this sounds blunt, but is it possible to keep the WhatsApp group for soccer only? I have enough WhatsApp groups to be keeping up with, and this one is getting very confusing. Are we going to play GA now on Saturday morning or not?"
Commander Aziz released.
Oops.
There we go. It's flying at the moment. I'm going to have plenty of content for that drive time show tomorrow. Right, sure. Let's get into our beat the bookie.
I have my bets done now.
Good man.
Will I go first?
Fair play to Rosanna doing them.
Big shout out to Rosanna for doing the bets tonight, yeah?
GAA don't make money for players, Karen.
Yeah, see?
I'd imagine that was kind of the response.
Well, now, the words butcher, baker, and candlestick maker were used when I spoke about it, so, you know, It is what it is.
I want my son to amount him something more than just a Lucasade ad. Or insurance.
So, what have I done here? Yeah, I've gone big with this one. I did forget about saying, you know, we were going to have stages here and we were going to do a banker. I forgot about that, to be honest with you. I did too, and I kind of went for it a little bit.
It wasn't a good look for you that week anyway. It's not your normal stick.
No. I'll tell you what I have gone for though. I don't regularly go for a double, but I've gone for a double. But I've gone for an El Midlands double. Would you believe?
Okay.
So I've gone Aston Villa on both to score and Wolves on both to score. Now, as a double, that pays 30 to 1.
It's not too bad. 2 results.
Results, but also both to score.
Both to score, yeah. Yeah.
Result and both to score. 30 to 1. I'll have a bit of that, thanks.
Yeah.
And looking at the games at the weekend, I thought to myself, I can see a couple of goal scorers in the midst here. The first goal scorer, I think, is going to be our friend Brian Mbeumo versus Everton, because I think Brentford are going to have a couple of goals here. I did say I think they'll get 2 or 3. And if Brentford get 2 or 3, our boy Mbeumo is going to get one. Yeah?
Yeah.
I spoke earlier on about that front 4 at Nottingham Forest and how much of a fan I was of those front 4. Well, there's a guy that's playing up front for Nottingham Forest at the minute, and he absolutely knows where the goal is. And it's Toiwu Awoniwu. And
ex-Liverpool boy.
Ex-Liverpool boy. I've got him to score any time against Manchester City. Because I think they might just catch them on the hop. And if anyone's going to score, this kid's a great finisher. He's a big, powerful lad. And he could buddy some of those City centre-backs and defenders. And I'm going to cap it off, would you believe, with one Martin Odegaard, because I think in the frenzy that might be the North London derby, I think he can bring a bit of still and a bit of calm to that game. So I've gone for Awoniwu, Mbeumo and Odegaard. And as a treble any time, they pay 40 to 1.
Okay.
And that's what I have for you this evening, Will.
Very good. I'm just checking something here for some reason. Yeah, no, I'm all good. Got 2 for you. They're yours.
They're mine.
Right.
Show me what you've got, Will.
I have 4 to score. 4 goal scorers for you. Paying 25 to 1. So lovely. I have the Egyptian King Mo Salah to score against West Ham anytime.
Okay.
The big Viking for Man City versus Nottingham Forest, Erling Haaland.
Okay.
I have, and I told you I wouldn't do you dirty, I have Rasmus Højlund to score versus Burnley. I think he'll kick on after getting the goal last night. Yeah, I think that'll do him the world of good. And the man you spoke about earlier, Ollie Watkins, Aston Villa to score against Chelsea.
Pretty good.
Those 4 pay you 26 to 1.
So you've got 4 for 26 and I've got 3 for 40.
Mm.
We know where the value is there now, don't we? We know where the value's going,
absolutely. Yeah, now I have, the other one I did was 3 draws.
You got to remember when you're bringing Haaland in, he's less than even money.
Yeah.
He's probably
2 to
like
5.
8 to 11. He's 2 to 5.
2 to 5.
Oh,
he's 2
God.
to 5 on. I'll tell you now what he is, actually. Where am I?
That's difficult, isn't it? 2 to 5.
He's 2 to 5 on, yeah.
You're talking
11. You're talking 11 to 10 Mo Salah, 2 to 5 Erling Haaland, 6 to 4 Rasmus Højlund, and 23 to 10 Ollie Watkins. So Ollie Watkins is over 2 to 1 anytime. That's not a bad bet to be looking at either. It's
not bad.
Not too shabby at all. Where am I now? Hang on. Get this one up. Right, I reverted back to type and I went with a treble, 3 draws straight up results.
Right.
Crystal Palace
and Fulham. Yeah.
To draw.
I could have told you that was number 1. Well, I picked the other 2.
Go on. Throw them out there for me.
Right, hang on.
Because you basically suggested them anyway.
Crystal Palace and Fulham, yeah.
Mm.
Arsenal and Tottenham.
Yep, spot on. And you know the last one.
Sheffield United, Newcastle.
Spot on. Those 3 draws, straight up 3 draws.
They'll pay you a smashing amount of money.
65 to 1.
Yeah, lovely. 3 draws, that's lovely.
12 to 5, 16 to 5, and 7 to 2.
Yeah, smashing.
Not too bad. Smashing. So they're the 2 I did. I didn't look at anything else.
Yeah, we've 2 each. There you go. We've given our fans and our adoring public a couple of little nuggets there, haven't we?
We have indeed, absolutely, as we always do.
Yeah.
Daz is worried. Dazzler, where's your headphones? He left them
I've
on.
got it set in, but I left them on earlier on. I was doing something else on them earlier, and I left the button on, and they drained the battery. Would you believe that?
He was on Twitch with Jadon Sancho, but the less said about that, the better. Did you read that story?
No.
Did you
He
not
was
hear
on
about
during
him?
the game last night, was he?
He was on during the game last night live on YouTube playing PlayStation.
Where else would you be?
Legend. WWE WrestleMania Revenge Tour UK shows Belfast in April. Very good.
Didn't see that.
Yeah, that's the talk anyway. So there you go. Well, folks, that's it. Another Thursday Tier Talk. I will be back with a recorded show tomorrow talking about the cuts in WWE. That's my little journey home, my little drive time episode. Saturday, I'll have a preview for Liverpool versus West Ham. And Sunday, of course, we'll have a match reaction and player ratings. So there you go. Another full weekend of podcasting.
And hopefully on Saturday, I'll have 3 points, half a performance, and a bit of peace from the world.
Oh, we should actually let people know as well on Monday. There's no Monday mashup because we're going off to meet Eric Bischoff from Inside the Ropes. So there you go. In Dublin, myself, Darren, Graham, and Morris are going to see Eric Bischoff. So there will be no Monday mashup, folks. So might have to do a Tuesday mashup or something like that. We'll do something.
Or Tuesday, we may just be mashed up.
That could be the case as well. Yeah, absolutely. NWO for life, baby. But until next time, folks, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification, drop a like on the video, of course, share the content, grow the community, and we will talk to you again real soon. Cheers, pal.
Thanks, brother.